Hello, everyone, and welcome to our online event. My name is Carlin Ning, and I am your event facilitator. I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today, and a special welcome to our Facebook audience who will be joining us as well. So a few things before we get started. I'd like to start off with our land acknowledgement, which is very important to us in Alberta. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Blackfoot and the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, the Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, including Chickasha, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nation. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. And we would also like to humbly thank our program funder for their support in regards to creating events such as this. A few administrative reminders before we begin. Please do mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. We do have many people with us in this live event, and background noise is very distractive. No abusive language will be tolerated. Please do not post any personal information in the chat box. And due to time constraints, there will be no Q&A at the end of this particular installment or workshop. An evaluation link will be sent out at the end of the workshop, and we appreciate your feedback as this allows us to provide better quality workshops. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our online event. And as I said earlier, for those of you who missed it, my name is Carlin, and I am going to be your event facilitator today. We work for Immigrant Services Calgary, and so we are going to be talking about how to join the Government of Alberta. Often, newcomer professionals ask us, how can they apply to the Government of Alberta? And so today, our guest speaker, Fauzia, is going to be talking to us about that. She came to Canada from India in the spring of 2021, and she was able to secure a very good role for herself with the government by June of that year. She's going to be sharing about her own experience and guiding us on how to complete applications when applying to the Government of Alberta. Please note there will be no Q&A today, as Fauzia will not be able to stay for the entire event. However, we know that you have a lot of questions for her, so Fauzia is providing us with an email address that you can use to send questions in about your applications. All registered attendees will receive a follow-up email with this information and some of the essential resources that we will be learning about during our presentation later on today. All right, well, I know that you will give Fauzia your undivided attention. So Fauzia, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Carlin, for the introduction, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. This is really exciting. Okay, so as I begin, Carlin has already introduced myself. However, just going into a little bit deeper about my background, I have completed all my education back in Bahrain, which is a Gulf country where I was born and brought up. And then I started working as a human resource professional and was working there for the past 7 years before I started working for the Government of Alberta since the past 1 year here in Canada. So I moved with my family here in the last March 2021 with my husband, who is also an IT professional here in Calgary, and my 4-year-old son. And I joined as an admissions advisor initially in one of the career colleges before I joined Government of Alberta in June. So one of the main reasons to give a better glance about my background is to answer one of the most important and common questions that I often receive through various mediums, and that is that it is very important to have Canadian education or extensive Canadian experience to be eligible and considered for positions within Government of Alberta. And the answer is no. So being myself as an example, and there are many more as examples. So we are definitely eligible to apply and be considered for positions within the Government of Alberta with our international education and our international experience as well. The second question that I get is, are we eligible to apply at the Alberta Public Service as just landed newcomers to Canada? So there is no really such particular foundation on a person who has recently landed or a person who is just a few days older in Canada is not able to apply. So as long as you have landed and residing in Canada legally on a valid open work permit or as a PR, you are eligible to apply at Government of Alberta. So I hope this clarifies on the eligibility of who can or who cannot apply on government jobs. Please note that there are COPR holders who are still to land in Canada and they are still to activate their PR status. So they are basically still not eligible to apply. I just wanted to make a special note of that because I know a lot of people have been reaching me who are still to land and trying to find out if they can apply to government jobs before landing. Yeah, so as I move forward through my presentation today with regards to the application process, I'll be addressing some of these frequent questions. So stay tuned, everyone. Further, I'll be sharing my screen now with all of you. Just let me know, Carlin, when you're able to see my screen.
I cannot see your screen at this moment. Maybe just.
Okay, just let me try again. I think you should be able to see now.
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carlin. Okay, so going ahead. So the next question again that comes to me is where do we look for the job postings, the openings? So of course we have our job posted on our LinkedIn page. It is very commonly found on Indeed, and some of our vacancies where we encourage fresh graduates, they are posted on university websites as well, such as University of Alberta, University of Calgary, and one of the most important medium is our career website. So here, giving you a glance to our career website, it is basically jobpostings.alberta.ca. This is the homepage, what it looks like. And when you are looking for jobs, you can actually find them according to your field or discipline. You go to explore opportunities. You can find these different fields and disciplines that we have our job posting for, starting from IT, human resource management, administration. And if you want to have a quick glance at the latest ones without categorizing them into disciplines, we just go to apply now. And these are our latest postings. You can see postings that have come up today as well. Okay, so in my presentation today, I'll be answering all those questions related to how to apply, what are the things to be taken into consideration when you're preparing your resume according to our openings, and further, how do you follow up regarding the status of your applications. All of this is mentioned in our job postings. Everything that I'm going to explain you today, it's just that sometimes we just lack that information because we are not going through the details of the job posting well. So everything that I'll be referring you today is on the basis of one of the job postings. So let me just pick a very common one, an administrative assistant. This was posted yesterday on June 1st. As you can see, the location is Edmonton, and the ministry is for agriculture and forestry. It is a full-time position. The working hours, it's a closing on June 9th. So basically this means that we are receiving and accepting applications until June 9th. After June 9th, midnight, 12 p.m., 12 a.m., we will not be receiving any more applications on this. Classification is administrative support 5. So every position within GOA has a specific classification to it. And every classification has some minimum recruitment standards. And I'll be going deeper into those minimum recruitment standards as well as we go further. Next, as you can see, is about us, basically a description about the Government of Alberta's website and how diverse we are towards our work culture. We highly encourage diverse population of Alberta to apply and compete for opportunities. We nowhere or no way mention in our job posting that preference will be given to only Canadian education or experience. Being an employee of GUA myself, I can be assured that we are very much committed towards an inclusive workplace that respects and each other's values. So you may hear me at times mentioning GOA. It's basically Government of Alberta. It's just that I'm used to saying it that way on a short form. Yeah, so going further here, then after we have a description about the government's work culture, we have a description about this particular ministry with a link. If you want to know more about the ministry and their work culture, their divisions and branches, you can go in and look into the ministry details, the ministry's website. This is a explanation about the division, basically where this admin position will be placed. And then you have the roles section. So basically, it's a very important section on the basis of which your resume would be framed. Here we give a brief description about whom this role would actually be reporting to, what are the main duties, what are the main responsibilities, what are we looking in terms of soft skills and roles and responsibilities of this particular positions. And then when you further go into the qualification section, here where I'll speak about the minimum recruitment standards. So basically, as an AS5, that is an administrative support 5, the minimum recruitment classification is a high school diploma with 3 years of related experience. This is what we have mentioned here, a high school diploma, minimum 3 years of work-related experience. And when I say related experience, I mean executive administration, issues management, financial administration, forecasting, and budgeting. Okay, and further you can see here mentioned equivalencies may be considered. Now, what do I mean by equivalencies? So according to the minimum recruitment standard, a high school diploma, that is 2 years, and 3 years of related experience, a total of 5 years is required. That is the minimum recruitment standard. Equivalency may be considered. Now, let's say as an example, this person X has just 1 year of experience. However, he has 4 years of related education, that is a bachelor's degree in business administration, let's say, or office administration. That again totals up to 5 years. He is also qualified to apply for this position. He meets the MRS. Let's say a person has no related education, but he has 5 years of complete experience, related experience. He again qualifies for this particular position. Okay. So I hope I could qualify that I could mention the difference between the qualifications and the equivalencies, how that works. This is the minimum requirement for this particular position. Now going further, you would see the assets. So now what are these assets? Assets are basically some of the points according to which the candidates will be given preference. These are not mandatory requirements for this position, but if someone has one or more or all of the assets, they will be given the first preference. Now you can imagine that it is an administrative support position, and there may be a lot of applicants in hundreds who have a high school diploma with 3 years of related experience. So, and it's not possible for us to interview each and every person who hasn't, applied for this particular position. So we further, when we go into the details of the resumes, we'll look into who closely matches the assets, who closely matches our requirement. These are the things we further look into. So I often come up with questions like, oh, I do meet all the requirements of this position. However, I was never called for an interview. So my next question would be, have you made sure that your resume meets the assets for this position? Again, there may be questions about, I do meet most of the assets and qualification for the position. However, I did not receive an interview. Now, in these terms, I would say that in these positions, I would say that there are certain places where we see that even a master's degree holder, a person who is very well qualified, also tries to apply for such positions. So I know as newcomers, we are often guided that if you're overqualified, try to cut down your resume according to the requirements of the job ad so that you are picked. But however, this might be true in some of the cases, maybe some of the outer or private organizations. However, here in a GOA, we are not trained, or task consultants like me are not trained as such to not shortlist people who are overqualified. There is nothing as such. So I always recommend whatever your qualifications are, be true to them, please mention them. This is very important. Even going further, I would explain why and how. So yeah, so these are some of the factors that we take into consideration, and this should be taken into consideration while you frame your resumes. Do you meet the qualifications? Do you have those equivalencies to meet the qualification? And do you meet one or more of the assets that can give you a preference? If yes, please make sure that resume mentions all that. And I would also like to point out one of the very common mistakes that I see in resumes. I know as newcomers, we are often guided that you need to target your resume according to the requirements of the job. You need to match those particular keywords. Yes, of course, you have to. That is important too. There is something known as ATS, the application tracking system. So that is of course important. However, there is a difference between matching the keywords on your resume and simply copy pasting the job description lines. Please do not do that. So we often see that applicants, they simply copy paste the lines from the job description, the whole, and paste it to the resume. So that generally does not give a very good impression. Simply copy pasting lines. Yes, of course, we know that people do target resumes, but concentrate more on the keywords, such as in this factor, I would say Microsoft Excel, SAP, arts. You can put up these keywords in any way on your present job description. It is not necessary that you need to match the whole job description or copy paste the whole thing in your resume as it is. No. Next, we move to the APS competencies. So now when the question comes to me about how do we prepare for the interviews, this is your answer. The APS competencies. Basically, competencies are behavior that are essential in working environment in a public service. And there are certain competencies that you need to understand before applying to this role and interviewing for this role. So you will find a link over here in our job ad that will take you to our competency model. Let me just touch this here for you. Here you go. So basically, when you go here into the details, you will find some background information about each and every competency. Why is it essential? What are the importance? What kind of questions you can be asked? What kind of situations you can be judged upon? Okay, so for this, every classification has a different competency associated with it. And for this particular position, it's develop network, creative problem solving, build collaborative environment, drive for results. So your interview would be, let's say you are shortlisted for an interview, you have met the minimum recruitment standards and the assets. And so your interview will be based on the technical questions related to this position, of course, that is according to the requirements and assets mentioned. And the other questions would be based upon this APS competencies. How do you meet those APS competencies? So you will be required to demonstrate this during the recruitment process. So you will be asked, of course, situational and behavioral based questions, and you need to address them using the STAR approach. I believe all of us who are looking for jobs are aware of those STAR approach by now: strength, task, action, and result. So use that format to elaborate on how do you meet those competencies, how would you behave, what were the actions if you have ever taken on such competencies, and what were the results. So competencies are your main goal when you're preparing for interviews for the Government of Alberta. going further here, this is the salary range given. For this particular position, all our positions, the salary ranges are open, they are fixed, they are not negotiable. So we often have, people coming back to us to say that, okay, this particular position needs just 3 years of experience. I have 10 years of experience, so I should get something more than this, right? So, however, this is not how it works with the classifications and the collective agreement that we follow. So, the minimum that you will get based on your particular experience and education, that again depends upon every case-to-case basis. This is the minimum that you may get for an AS5 position, and this is the maximum on a bi-weekly basis. And we have also mentioned the yearly amount. So, the salary is also open. All our job posting have our salary ranges mentioned on this. And based on your education and your experience, you will be placed anywhere between this salary range. There are some notes further related to this particular position. So you can see the office location, the working hours, the working days. And it also mentions that a cover letter is required. Not all the job ads may mention this. Sorry, so if this particular job ad mentions that there is a cover letter required for this one, please pay attention to details and do upload a cover letter as well. This also says that there is a written test to be demonstrated after the interviews. Not all our positions need a written test or a technical test. Again, that depends upon the requirement of every particular position, what kind of test we want to implement. We have presentations as test, we have virtual interviews, of course. We may have an in-person interview now with all the restrictions getting lifted. And we have different kind of assessments based on the requirement of those particular roles and what our hiring managers are trying to rate our candidates upon. Next, we can see what we offer. These are some of the benefit plans that we offer to our employees. The pension plan, we are basically part of the public service pension plan, and our management employees are part of the management pension plan. The leadership and mentorship program, the professional development, the culture and work-life balance. These are some of the benefits that we include, and you can know more about this going into this link as benefits. Now, one of the most important parts, you know what are the requirements for this position, you know what are the benefits, you know what is the salary range, and you know what are the competencies that you will be tested upon. Now, how do you apply to these positions? So basically, there is an apply now button here in every job ad, at the end of every job ad. So when you go to apply now, it will take you to a page where you have to log in using an email ID and a password. So all of you, those who have already registered to our career website, you can simply log in using the user ID and password. And for those of you who have not, you need to create a candidate profile. So when you go there, you'll find a create an account option. You can just go there, and when you click on forget your password, it will help you redirect and create an account for yourself. Okay, so once you have that account created, your candidate profile is really important in terms of, because all the communications that you will receive further is on your email and on your candidate profile, starting from your interview invites, the status of your job application, and then your offer letter further. And further, when you join GUA, the same account gets converted into an internal employee account. So, yeah. Okay. Now, here are some advices and resources. Now when you know that, how do you apply to these positions? What is the website you have to look into for job openings, and how do you create a profile, and what are the things that you need to take into consideration while you are applying for these jobs? You have applied for the job. Now you are curious to know what is exactly the hiring process, what happens next to your application, what is the timeline. So here are some resources for our applicants. The second one, as you can see, is Alberta Public Service hiring process. I'll go into this. So as you can see here, our hiring process is based on 6 main steps. The first step is, of course, advertising the opportunity, as I explained to you earlier, and then accepting the applications according to the deadline that we have. Further, if you have any questions with related to the status of your job ad and related to our application procedure, you have some disability or special requirements that you want to um, share with our HR and to make some necessary arrangements with you. This is our general query website email ID, that is psc.tamservices@gov.ab.ca. So please feel free to reach if you are not sure because of any technical error that whether your application was received or not. You can always email them and find out if your application was received successfully. All you have to do is you provide the job application, the job requisition number that you had applied to, the job title and your name, and they would reply back to you. And then the step 3 is reviewing of applications. Now I often get questions about, I had applied to a position, let's say a month back, 2 months back, and I still haven't heard from them. So there is really no fixed timeline that we are able to follow when it comes to shortlisting our candidates and interviewing. That is because we have candidates ranging between 50s and hundreds and even thousands from some of our talent pool recruitment. And a consultant like me will be screening each and every resume, is responsible to write comments upon and provide a feedback on each and every resume. So you can understand the numbers and the task and the massive process included in this. So I often get comments about like, why is the process so slow? So all I can say is our process is not slow. It's just that we have a process to follow, a work action to follow and flow through, which takes time. There are so many approvals related to that, and there are so many background checks and audits related to that. So just keeping into consideration those things that we need to follow before we proceed ahead each and every step, and to ensure that we are being fair to everyone, it just takes some time. Now, how do we assess top candidates? That is all those applications that we receive, we review. How do we assess them? Now, as I mentioned earlier, each job has its unique qualification that are considered as a whole, and we often receive application from well-qualified candidates competing on one job opportunity. So not necessarily everyone meeting the minimum recruitment standard is, qualifying for an interview. So you need to try the best level of your capacity to mention how do you meet those requirements very closely. What are the organizations that you have worked into? If you can give a brief description about those organizations and their work culture, that shows that what kind of organizations you have been into, what were your achievements into those roles. So a lot of things come into factor according to the ministry's work environment, that who goes further into a recruitment process and who is selected further. Of course, if you want feedback on your application, let's say that you haven't heard back, you can always reach this email ID that I have mentioned. And every job ad also has a particular task admin assigned to that particular job ad. I'll show you where you can find the admin's information as well once I go back. And the final one would be, not the final one, just before the final ones is the assessment round. That is basically our interviews, as I mentioned, that there might be writing, there may be tactical, and there is always a virtual, it could be face-to-face even. And then we conduct the pre-employment checks. So typically the pre-employment checks involve the background verification, that is the security screening, the academic verification, and then your reference checks, that is with your previous employers. Now, one important thing to mention here when it comes to reference checks, I have very oftenly and frequently asked this question too, that does internal reference work, or like let's say someone reaching out to me or some other GOA employee to ask if we are able to refer them to a particular position internally. So a very simple and clean answer to that is no, we are not able to. Why? When we speak about diversity and inclusion and being fair towards all our applicants, so it's not really fair, right, that um, just on the basis of a reference, a person who is lesser qualified or a person who is more qualified is not being through just because he did not have an internal reference. So just to maintain that fairness among all our applicants, we don't have any such process of having an internal reference or going through or someone vouching for us, and then we can proceed an applicant through to the interview process. I know when we are newcomers, we are guided that we need to make contacts, we need to make personal references, professional references, so that they can vouch for us. Of course, it does works, and it is a good thing for your own professional development to connect to people in your field, and if they can vouch for you in organization. However, this is not just something that we follow here within the Government of Alberta, that someone just goes through because he or she has an internal reference.
Yeah, ma.
And
Now, tungo.
and apart from that, yes, your professional references, if there is someone who is working in the Government of Alberta, then during the pre-employment checks, I would recommend and suggest that do mention their name as one of your references. That is a good thing to know always, that you have someone, you have worked with someone who is already in GOA and would like to connect with them and know more about you. That is all, that can always be a positive thing. But only when you reach the pre-employment check stages, not before that, or not before the screening stage or the interview stage. Then the final is, of course, extension of the job offer. So once everything is completed, we have all your pre-employment checks in our hand. One of the most important thing, again, that I missed is apart from the pre-employment checks with your professional references that you have worked, your educational qualification needs to be assessed. So I believe all of us are aware of IQAS, BES, CES. So make sure that your educational qualifications are assessed and recognized in Canada in order to get that equivalency. You do not have to have it ready in hand when you are applying for a position. However, make sure that if you don't have it, you at least apply for the same, so that by the time you reach the pre-employment check stage, you have it ready to be presented. Okay? Because that is something that we will check and we will ask at the pre-employment check stage. So just to avoid to delay on things, we just want to make sure that you have it ready. So that is basically was an overview of the whole hiring process in 6 steps. And then you see the next thing in our job ad is our closing statement. I want to grab your attention to the first statement here, that this competition may be used to fill future vacancies across the Government of Alberta at the same or lower classification level. Now, what does this mean? Now, this means that we have, of course, interviewed many candidates, and then one particular candidate who have scored the highest accepts the position, getting offered with the position, and joins us. Now, what happens to the other candidates who are not offered, but they are qualified for those positions? They even through the interviews, maybe if our first candidate would not have been chosen, we would have moved to our second or third best candidate. So their application and their assessment are placed on a talent pool that we maintain on a regular basis. For our bargaining unit positions, we place them for a period of 6 months into our talent pool. So whenever we have positions that are related or under the same classification, we try to have a look at our talent pool. We refer our hiring managers to those talent pool to see our certified candidates who were qualified recently through same competitions. If they are matching our requirements, we try to reach them if they are interested for the other particular opportunity, or maybe at a lower classification. So we can proceed that way with all our applicants, those who qualified through the interviews but were not offered for some reason. So this is very important to note, because it's not that someone who is qualified completely, who has done well in his interviews, his application just go waste. He is been placed into a talent pool, and his application will stay in the talent pool for 6 months, and he may be considered for a similar role or at a lower classification. All applications reviewed to determine which candidate's qualification most closely match the advertised requirement. Only individuals selected for interviews will be contacted. Please note that it is not that if you have applied to a position that you will surely get a regret email if you do not proceed ahead. Only the candidates who were selected for interviews and who have been interviewed but not selected or offered further will be sent a regret email. For the others who did not proceed towards the interview stage, we are unable to provide them a regret email at this point of time. However, as I mentioned earlier, that I would mention the task administrator. Where do you find the task admin info? So in our closing statement, you have this task administrator email ID. Now, it's not the same administrator for each and every job ad. We have different administrators assigned. For this particular example that I'm showing you, this is the task admin and this is the email ID. So if you need a status on your job application, you have not been contacted, you can always reach your task admin, providing the job requisition ID, your name, and asking them for a feedback or the status update on your application. Let's say you were interviewed with us and you received a regret email mentioning that you were not selected further for this position. It would either mention that you were certified and you are placed in a talent pool, or it would just mention general regret. That means you have not even certified. Now you want a further feedback on why you were not certified or why you were not qualified. It is always good to have feedback on what can be done better, what can be taken care of in our next round of interviews. So again, the task administrators are your point of contact. You can reach them, you can ask them for a feedback because you have received a regret email. They would connect further with task consultants like me and our selection panel members, and we would get back to you with the feedback. It could be in a written form, or some of us even choose to discuss things over a call. So there is an option to gain feedback on your applications as well, which is very good again, I believe. So this is about the application process, the hiring process, and the feedback process, looking for status updates on your application. Now, as I speak about all these opportunities, there is one such opportunity that I would like to highlight that I am currently working on, and this is for a project manager position. These are multiple positions within the Ministry of Infrastructure. Let me just pull out the job ad here for you first. I just know the job requisition ID, so I have just filtered it according to the job requisition ID. You can just put the job title, or you can explore opportunities based on positions, and you will get this. This is still active. So this is a mass recruitment, and you can see there is no closing date to this. This is open until all positions are filled. So there are multiple positions that we are going to fill over the next few months, and therefore there is no closing date to it. I'm still accepting applications, still reviewing and screening through the resumes. Our hiring managers are looking into the resumes, and we will shortly be proceeding towards the interviews. So giving a glance about this particular position, it is for a project manager. We have multiple positions that are temporary and permanent as well. Our temporary positions are at least 3 years of duration. They will be placed in Edmonton and Calgary. The classification for this particular position is Manager Zone 2. So these are our management positions, okay? This again gives you a brief description about Alberta Infrastructure with a website that takes you to Alberta Infrastructure Ministry and their particular details about their particular division and branches. So the candidates who are interested, you can go and have a look at the ministry website as well. And then we come to the role. So basically this particular role is for a project management professional. And this is basically for the capital projects delivery team. And some of the projects that we are hiring for are for the learning facilities branch, that includes the new schools, for the health facilities branch, that includes new hospital, and for our government facilities branch, that includes courthouses. These are some of the projects that we are hiring for. And of course, as you can see here mentioned in the role, client coordination, project management, contract management, these are some of the things that we are looking into while in our ideal candidate. And coming into the qualifications for this role, the minimum qualification for this particular role is a 4 years degree in architecture or civil engineering or construction, and a 4 years of experience in project management. So 4 plus 4, as I mentioned earlier, minimum recruitment 8. Equivalency will be considered, of course, as mentioned here as well. So let's say a person has a 2-year technical diploma in construction, but he has 6 years of related experience or more. Again, it totals up to an 8 years or more. Then he is also qualified to apply for this particular position. Some of the requirements that you have to make sure is mentioned on your resume is building design and construction, contract management, and managing interdisciplinary teams. That is, you have experience in managing teams as a project manager or a supervisory role. I have made a very special note here. Your related education and experience outside Canada will also be considered, provided valid education assessment report and references are submitted at pre-employment check stage, as I have mentioned earlier. We highly encourage aspiring newcomers in Canada with relevant education and experience to apply. So yes, if you have done project management outside Canada into the field of construction, civil engineering, architecture, any kind of building, not necessarily it has to be a school or a health facility, or it could be anything, any sort of construction, then please feel free to apply. We look forward to your applications. If you are selected further, these are the APS competencies, as you can see. You will be going into this link and preparing for those questions and those situations accordingly. This link is really going to be helpful in preparing for your job interview. So please definitely look into it. The salary range is mentioned over here. Please note that I know we may receive many applications who even have a master's or PhD in construction and with 15 to 20 years of experience, but and their salary expectation would maybe be more than this, maybe be lesser, but this is something that we are bound to, and our salary range is non-negotiable. We are not able to offer something outside the salary range. The hours of work and the days of work mentioned here, the two most important locations are at Edmonton at Neil Crawford and Calgary JJ Ballin Building, and the infrastructure shops here in Northwest. A valid class 5 driver's license is required for this position because this position is required to travel to various areas across Alberta to look into the construction, of course. So yeah, and then here you can see multiple temporary for up to 3 years. So the temporary positions are up to 3 years, and then you have permanent positions available as well. The final candidates for these positions will have to go through security screening. So when we start with your pre-employment check stages, that is only when you qualify through an interview, we proceed towards the pre-employment check stage. So your security, your academic verification, for those who have international qualification, we look into their IQS or WEST report. For those who have local qualification, Canadian qualification, we contact their academic institution to verify their education qualifications. And then, of course, the reference checks. Your reference checks should include your previous supervisory references. We encourage at least 2 to 3 references to be provided. These things, now there might be a question that when do we submit these things? These are not required to submit with your application. When you are further shortlisted into a screening, our admins will get back to you and they proceed with scheduling the interviews with you. And that is when they ask for those documents from you, your consent forms, your reference list, and everything. We do take them at the interview stage. However, please note that Because this was collected, it doesn't mean that everyone will have to go through a reference check. Only the candidates who go through certify through the interview stage, only their references will be contacted. And then you see in our closing statement, even for this particular position, we have mentioned that this competition may be used to fill future vacancies across the Government of Alberta. So not only project managers, we have positions coming up related to the project coordinators as well. So let's say we find resumes that are very much relevant to those particular roles, even if not for a management position. So we might contact them or consider them further for those roles. And then you see the task admin's name is mentioned here with the email ID when you find this job ad. So if in case if you have any further queries, you need a copy of the role profile, you need some disability related accommodation during the interviews, please feel free to reach Samantha. Samantha Kit is our task admin. She will be communicating your message to us, to the selection panel member, and we will reach further on this regards to you. And yeah, so now just summarizing all this up, and I honestly find myself fortunate enough to to be able to look at both the sides of the coins. And I can say that I applied first as a candidate, went through the whole hiring process myself, and now I'm recruiting for the government and following up the process for others. So I can assure you, and I know how transparent and fair and detail oriented our process is. So I highly encourage newcomers like me to apply for suitable positions when you come across. At an immigrant point of view, I know that um, we get suggestions and see live examples where we are ready to grab anything and everything we get. We are somehow making up our minds to apply for jobs that are far below the level that we were already working back in our home countries. Of course, every start is a big start in Canada, and no work is less in any capacity. However, my point is that it is not always necessary to settle for less. So please believe in your own capabilities and apply for those suitable positions that you believe that you can handle. Now, I know each one of us have different experience, and according to that, we have different opinion in terms of looking for job search as a newcomer. It is great to take advice from others who came before us, the ones who have gone through the same process, experienced the same phase. They have more knowledge and experience than us. However, please remember that things change with time. Do not be afraid of trying something or doing something that no one has ever done before, just thinking that it didn't work for them, so it will not work for me. It is important to take advices from the experts, but at the same time, it will be great if we can leave some footsteps for others to be followed. So concluding with that, I hope I have covered all the points in today's session that I wanted to share with all of you. And if any one of you would benefit from this, I would be really happy. And I wish each one of you all the best for your future endeavors. And for those who have joined later or have missed the session for any reason, I believe we'll have a recording for this later uploaded. So thank you so much for your patience, everyone. And most of all, Immigrant Services Calgary, it is needless to say that you guys are doing an amazing work. Over to you, Carlin.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Fauzia. I think I speak on behalf of everyone. We're very touched with your final words. And, I definitely felt that partway through the presentation, I was learning a little something new about the process at the Government of Alberta and how things are different when you are applying to the government as opposed to when you're applying to corporate sectors or even nonprofit sectors. So I hope everyone enjoyed our presentation. Our event is now closing, and we are definitely going to be sending you your follow-up email with the resources attached to it. So please, if you are a registered attendee for this event, you will receive a follow-up email with some very important links and resources, including email to contact people in the Government of Alberta, as well as some essential websites that will help you as you guide you along your way as you're working through the application process. And I just cannot highlight to you all enough. Please do respond to the survey. I am posting the survey in our chat box. And Fauzia, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I definitely look forward to those comments and feedbacks on your survey. If there is anything that you feel that was missed in today's presentation, or you would like to hear more about, please feel free to write, and we'll try to get the best possible to you again, for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, we are having more events coming up in the near future of different types of topics, but definitely am looking forward to seeing all your feedback on those forms. There is a section on the feedback form that gives you the opportunity to give us additional comments. And of course, this is optional, but if you need to provide us with additional information, it certainly is welcome. Well, in that case, I'm going to conclude this event for everyone, and I thank you all for attending, okay?